Evening, everyone. It's about 6:30 on Thursday evening, and this is your closing comment. It's video number 513, and as always, I remind you, and I know it's getting boring, but if you like the work, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Okay, so today was kind of an interesting day. We had the early news on claims, which were better than expected, on CPI, which was exactly as expected and unchanged, and the October deficit came in at 284 billion, which isn't much of a change on a month-to-month basis, but on a year-over-year basis, it is literally over twice what last year's October number was. So the market had a real hand-wringing of a day, and but in the last half hour or 45 minutes, it came all the way back from minus about 460 to close down only 317, or a little over 1%. The NASDAQ, which was down most of the day, finished down 76.84, or 65 basis points. The S&P, which was down with the Dow earlier, down 35.65, or 1%. The big loser was the big winner for the last couple of days, and that was the Russell, and it was down 28.46, 1.64%. And the Dow Jones transports were down just under 168 for 1.4%. Okay, so this afternoon we had earnings from Disney, Cisco, and Palantir. The Disney earnings were not as bad as expected. I think that they were looking for a loss of 71 cents maybe, and it came through at minus 20 cents. And revenues were actually up. So just to give you a brief overview, Disney was down from the high in January of 148 and change to roughly 79 and a half. In the past couple of weeks, though, it had bottomed in the 127 area. Oh, I can show you. Make it a lot easier. So here was the big sell-off, and it had started to move up, ran into some resistance right here where you would expect it in the gap to the downside, bottomed in here, and then this big up day is the news of the vaccine. And we'll put in the post-market so you can see, as you can see, this is where it closed. It was up as high as 145.46 and is currently 140 and a quarter, which is still up about $2.50 from the close. The next one is Cisco, and Cisco also had a beat. The stock is down from the tops here this is last summer, but to give you an idea, it is down from about 58, got down here to let's see, to 32, worked its way back up, came back down. This is, I think, a little test of the lows on the weekly. Go back to the daily. And as you can see, it's been creeping up and creeping up and creeping up. This was the day of the vaccine news. And here is today, where we are 41.46 after closing in the 136, about, let's see, go back to the plain one. Okay, so 38.67. And in the post-market, we got up as high as 42.38, and as I said, the last is 41.48, so it's only about $1 off the high off the high and substantially off the low. The next one is Palantir, who I guess had a bit of a disappointment. This is, as you can see, hasn't been around that long. It's a recent new issue. But as you can see, in the last 5 days, it's come from 1072 to today's high before the news, and it had already been as high as 1706 and had closed around 1458. In the post market, it got all the way down here to 1333 and has since rallied back up to 1473, which was actually a little bit higher than the end of regular trading, but still down $1.08 on the day. Okay, so energy has been a consistent problem, and this is only a 3-day chart of the oil. As you can see, this was the run-up that we had on the also on the vaccine news, where we got up as high as 4306, and then we started to come back down. Today starts right here, and they tried to take it down, couldn't, rallied it back up, and it got stuck right here. This is the high of the day, which was about 42 and change. And then we came all the way back down here in the afternoon, and we're further down tonight at 40.53 with the low. 40.63 is the last, down $0.50. I know that's really a micro look, but I wanted you to see exactly what it did look like, because there's that 4306, which I mentioned this morning, just coincidentally happens to be right here at the same area that it broke down from, and it is moving a little bit lower. The gold was up a little, 11 and a half. Bitcoin, again, the chart that I can't say enough about. This is the first time in 3 years that Bitcoin has been above 16,000, and solidly so. Still looking for a place to buy back some of those GBTC, but as you can see, as I mentioned this morning, we have a little consolidation here, higher lows. I'm going to guess that this is probably going to blow off in the next day or two. Maybe on Friday, because Friday is such a good day for it to do something like that. But, this is the high at 20,650. This is the one we blew right through. But as you can see, these are just 4 or 5 days where it had, big ranges. I think I heard somebody say that it has only spent about 2.5 days above 16,000 because of the closes in here. This one is 15,000, 13,000, 13,945 after being 16,845. So this is going to be a tough area, I would think. But regardless, we're seeing all kinds of support for it coming in from banks and hedge funds who have set up a crypto desk for trading. And, you have to have some supply, and that is creating the demand. Okay, back to the stocks. We did, in fact, buy the Snap. When I mentioned it this morning, it had been upgraded by Deutsche Bank and a couple of others. And I watched it, didn't do anything, but when it got back up in here into this 4180 area and couldn't go any further, that's when we shorted it. We shorted it versus about 40 and a half, or just under 41 actually. And it closed pretty close to the low. Those options were, I think we paid 64 to 66 cents, and I think they closed around 80 cents. And I think that this is still on the overbought side. The volume continues to be unimpressive every time it tries to move up. And so I think if we break this area in here, yesterday's low was 38.34. If we break that, I'm going to guess we're going to go for the gap here. And that's actually quite a distance, but as you can see, this one can move quite a distance in a day. My attitude is anything that can happen against you in a day can be reversed for you the next day. Alibaba. I said that I like this as a long. The reason was because it was, number one, it had come down pretty hard from the top Bollinger Band, 319 and change. And then this is the cancellation of the IPO for Ant, which would add roughly $60 billion to Alibaba since they own a big piece of it. It is also dramatically oversold. So right before the end of the day, I didn't put it out as an alert, but I did put it out on Discord that I was in fact a buyer. I bought a couple for myself of the Alibaba next Friday, so the normal monthly option expiration. I bought the 280 calls and paid $1.98 for them. I think they closed $2 or $2.03. The point being that the top of the gap is exactly 280. I could have saved some money and gone with the 282 and a halves, but they didn't have as much open interest as the round number did. And also, if we only got up to the top of that gap at 280, those 282 and a halves are still worthless, and the 280s are the most in demand option at that point. Anyway, that's about it. I'll be back first thing in the morning. I hope everyone had a good, safe day. And, wanted to mention one other thing. Deutsche Bank came out with what I would say is the dumbest idea under the sun. And that is that people who work at home should be taxed 5% because they're working from home. And I have no idea how that makes sense in any world, considering it saves the company money, it saves the worker money, time, commuting, meals, and yet they came up with this 5% tax for people. Now, I can understand. I know one of my kids was working in New York, and he got paid a little more than when he had the same job up here because of the cost of living, but not because he was working in any particular office or not in any particular office. I mean, this was a stopgap measure. Working from home was a stopgap measure for the pandemic, and to tax people for participating in that is just ludicrous. Anyway, there you have it. I'll be back first thing in the morning, and don't forget to subscribe.